Hey there, fellow time travelers. Welcome back to Memory Lane, your one-stop destination for all things nostalgia. Today, we're dialing back the analog clock to explore one of the grooviest decades of all, the 1970s. Back then, bell-bottoms were in, disco was king, and families gathered around the TV for their favorite shows. But as the decades marched on, some of those beloved shows drifted into the land of forgotten memories. Today, we're revisiting 20 of the most popular TV shows from the 70s that have faded into history. So grab your popcorn, sit back, and join me as we remember the shows that lit up the boob tube during the Me Decade. Number 1's Petrocelli. First on our list is Petrocelli, a legal drama about Tony Petrocelli, a big city lawyer who trades the urban grind for small-town life in Arizona, played by Barry Newman. Tony was known for his thoughtful approach to cases, often uncovering hidden truths through flashbacks and clever investigations. His wife, Maggie, added warmth to the show as they lived in a trailer, dreaming of building their perfect home. Audiences loved the unique mix of crime-solving and heartfelt storytelling, which made Petrocelli stand out in the 1970s. But over time, it struggled to compete with flashier, more modern legal dramas. Number 2, Apple's Way. Imagine taking the warmth of the Waltons and transplanting it to suburban America. Apple's Way tried to do just that. The show followed the Apple family, led by George Apple, who uprooted his clan from the hustle and bustle of Los Angeles to the quaint, idyllic town of Appleton, Iowa. With heartfelt storylines centered around families' attempts at adjusting to small-town life and reconnecting with core values, Apple's Way explored themes of simplicity, togetherness, and the challenges of modernity encroaching on tradition. Now, while the show struck a chord with viewers seeking wholesome family dramas, it struggled to stand out amongst giants like Little House on the Prairie, which captured audiences with a nostalgic frontier appeal. Additionally, the societal shift toward grittier, more progressive storytelling in the mid-70s may have contributed to its fade into the background. Number 3 is Holmes and Yo-Yo. Now here's a show with a premise straight out of left field. Holmes and Yo-Yo was a quirky buddy comedy where Detective Alexander Holmes, an accident-prone cop, gets paired with Gregory Yo-Yo Yoyanovich, a humanoid robot who looks like an ordinary man. Together, they work to solve crimes while keeping Yo-Yo's robotic nature a secret. The show leaned heavily on slapstick humor, with Yo-Yo's robotic quirks leading to mishaps like eating cassette tapes or malfunctioning at the worst possible time. While the sci-fi cop concept was undeniably unique, it also made the show feel ahead of its time and a bit hard to categorize. Audiences loved the charming chemistry between Holmes, played by Richard B. Schull, and Yo-Yo, John Shook, not to mention Yo-Yo's deadpan delivery and physical comedy. But why didn't the show stick around? Well, one reason could be its limited 13-episode run, which means that it didn't have enough time to gain a solid footing. Another might be the dated nature of its humor and special effects, which, while creative, could feel a bit campy by modern standards. Number 4 is James at 15. Now, few shows capture the awkward dance of adolescence quite like James at 15. This heartfelt drama followed James Hunter, played by Lance Kerwin, as he moved across the country to Boston and adjusted to a new life filled with teenage hurdles. From navigating a first crush to handling the pangs of homesickness and finding his identity, James' experiences resonate with a generation of viewers who were also trying to just make sense of life's challenges. But what made it really stand out was its raw honesty. Unlike the sanitized portrayals of teens on other shows, James at 15 wasn't afraid to confront real issues like loneliness, peer pressure, and even teenage sexuality. Topics that felt a bit taboo on television at the time. The show also offered a visually rich experience, with scenes shot on real locations that added authenticity and made James' world feel relatable and alive. Despite breaking new ground, the series struggled to find a lasting audience. Some parents considered it too edgy, while others saw its themes as ahead of their time. When the show transitioned into James at 16, it continued to tackle sensitive topics but couldn't capture a foothold against lighter fare dominating the airwaves. Today, it remains a nostalgic relic of 1970s storytelling. A braver, grittier take on coming-of-age narratives reminds us of a time when TV dared to mirror the complexities of real life. Number 5 is The New Adventures of Wonder Woman. Linda Carter's portrayal of Wonder Woman is downright iconic, but the show that made her a household name, it flew a bit under the radar in recent years. The New Adventures of Wonder Woman followed Diana Pryce, the Amazonian warrior princess turned superhero, as she navigates the challenges of saving the day, often while juggling her secret identity as a government agent. Set against the backdrop of the 1940s during its first season, the show had a distinctive retro vibe full of wartime espionage and villains plotting global mayhem. Later seasons shifted to a contemporary 1970s setting, bringing a funky new flavor with flashy costumes and storylines that tackled modern issues like environmentalism and technology. Linda Carter brought a dazzling charisma to the role, combining strength, intelligence, and compassion. She made Wonder Woman a beacon of empowerment during a decade when feminist values were gaining momentum. The show's mix of campy action sequences, colorful villains, and those unforgettable spins into costume made it a weekly ritual for fans of all ages. And who could forget that rousing theme song? But despite Wonder Woman's undeniable cultural impact, the series itself doesn't enjoy the same enduring hype as other superhero properties. One reason could be its lighthearted and sometimes cheesy tone, which feels dated compared to today's more complex superhero tales. Another factor is its uneven writing, with some plots veering into silliness rather than fully exploring Wonder Woman's potential. Still, for fans who grew up watching Linda Carter deflect bullets with those iconic bracelets, The New Adventures of Wonder Woman remains pure television gold. It stands as a vivid reminder of a time when superhero TV shows, they were just about saving the world, they were about having some earnest, high-energy fun all along the way. Number 6, The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams. Imagine escaping the pressures of everyday life to live in harmony with nature. That was the dream that The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams tapped into. The show followed James, or Grizzly Adams, played by Dan Haggerty, a gentle mountain man accused of a crime he didn't commit. He found refuge in the wilderness, forging a new life alongside his grizzly bear companion Ben and other forest friends. It stood out for its breathtaking outdoor settings and heartwarming stories that celebrated the bond between humans and animals. During the environmentally conscious 70s, this wholesome escapist series hit the right notes, offering an alternative to the fast pace of modern living. However, as TV shifted toward grittier, more urban themes in later decades, Grizzly Adams started to feel quaint and disconnected from audiences' changing tastes. Number 7 is Quincy M.E. Now, before forensic dramas were everywhere, there was Quincy M.E., the trailblazer. Jack Klugman starred as Dr. Quincy, who was a no-nonsense medical examiner who turned autopsies into crime-solving adventures. Each episode saw Quincy fighting for justice, unearthing truths from the deceased that others had overlooked. The show stood out for tackling social issues of the time, like pollution, addiction, and workplace negligence, woven into compelling investigative stories. It made science a crucial element of drama and kept audiences hooked on Quincy's fiery determination and sharp wit. But as the genre exploded with slicker, more modern iterations like CSI, the show's slower pace and dated production style became less appealing. Still, Quincy M.E. laid the groundwork for the forensic crime dramas that we see today, making it a groundbreaking piece of TV history that still sparks nostalgia. Number 8 is Barney Miller. Barney Miller was the kind of show that thrived on witty dialogue and rich character dynamics rather than flashy storylines. Centered on a New York City police precinct, it followed Captain Barney Miller, played by Hal Linden, and his quirky team of detectives as they handled petty crimes and eccentric characters with humor and heart. Each episode was filled with a mix of absurd situations and thoughtful social commentary, reflecting the complexities of urban life in the 1970s. The cast, featuring standout performances by Abe Vigoda as a grumpy Detective Fish and Max Gale as the earnest Wojo, gave the show a grounded charm. While Barney Miller earned critical acclaim for its clever writing and subtle humor, it gradually faded in popularity as it was overshadowed by flashier sitcoms of the time. Number 9's Logan's Run. Logan's Run brought viewers into a dystopian future where life seemed perfect, but only until the age of 30. Based on the 1976 sci-fi movie, the series followed Logan 5, played by Gregory Harrison, a Sandman, or enforcer, who begins to question the rules of his society. Together with Jessica 6, portrayed by Heather Menzies, and the android Rem, the trio escaped the Dome City in search of freedom and a mysterious sanctuary. Now, what made Logan's Run unique was its exploration of thought-provoking themes like individuality, rebellion, and societal control, all wrapped in the trappings of futuristic technology and adventures in uncharted terrain. At a time when sci-fi was in full swing post-Star Wars, the show tapped into the public's appetite for stories set in imaginative worlds. However, the limited budget made the effects and production feel modest compared to its cinematic counterpart. Combined with heavy competition from other sci-fi hits of the era, its run was cut short after just one season. Despite fading memories, Logan's Run remains a fascinating artifact of 1970s TV, remembered fondly by fans for its ambitious storytelling and inventive premise. Number 10 is Love, American Style. Love, American Style was a bold and bubbly anthology series that brought a colorful twist to the concept of romance on TV. Each episode featured a mix of comedy and some heartfelt feelings too, showcasing the many facets of love and relationships, often with a cheeky and irreverent tone that reflected the cultural changes of the late 60s and 70s. With a rotating cast of guest stars, including popular actors and comedians of the time, the show stood out for its playful experimentation. Its bright visuals, lighthearted musical interludes, and inventive storytelling made sure that no two episodes felt the same. The ability to poke fun at love and dating while still delivering moments of sincerity struck a chord with viewers that were looking for entertainment that mirrored the evolving norms around relationships. Although it resonated in its era, Love, American Style began to lose momentum as audiences moved towards sitcoms with recurring central characters and more grounded narratives. Yet its influence lives on. In fact, the show gave rise to Happy Days, which began as a segment in one of its own episodes. For fans who grew up watching it, Love, American Style evokes a carefree Technicolor trip into the evolving ideals of romance during a pivotal era in American culture. We're just getting started on this nostalgic trip through the 70s. Coming up, we've got more forgotten gems that dared to be bold, quirky, and imaginative. From groundbreaking sci-fi adventures to comedies that went delightfully off the rails, these shows may have faded from the mainstream, but their stories are still worth remembering. Stick around, you might just rediscover an old favorite. Number 11 is McMillan and Wife. McMillan and Wife blended crime solving with an irresistible dose of charm. Following the lives of San Francisco's police commissioner Stuart McMillan, played by Rock Hudson, and his witty, resourceful wife Sally, brought to life by Susan St. James, together they formed a sleuthing duo whose chemistry became the heart of the series, solving crimes while juggling the quirks of married life. Part of NBC's popular mystery movie wheel, alongside shows like Columbo, the series offered an enticing combination of suspense and humor. It stood out by emphasizing the bond between its central couple, setting it apart from other detective series of that time. With its vibrant characters and scenic San Francisco backdrop, it captured the escapist fun that audiences deeply enjoyed during the 70s. The dynamic between McMillan and his wife became its defining element. But as St. James departed the series toward its later seasons, the spark that made it so special began to fade. Combined with stiff competition and changing TV trends, the show eventually slipped out of mainstream consciousness. Number 12 is Alias Smith and Jones. In an era when westerns were beginning to ride into the sunset, Alias Smith and Jones brought a fresh, playful energy to the genre. The show centered on two charming outlaws, Hannibal Hayes, alias Joshua Smith, played by Pete Duell, and Jed Kid Curry, alias was Thaddeus Jones, portrayed by Ben Murphy. And the duo sought to turn their lives around and earn amnesty by staying on the right side of the law, all while dodging bounty hunters and old enemies. What made it special was the lighter tone and focus on wit rather than shootouts. Hayes and Curry were more likely to talk than shoot their way out of trouble, a theme that set it apart from the grittier westerns that had dominated the airwaves. Their camaraderie carried the show, creating a sense of friendship and mischief that appealed to audiences that were looking for escapism in the early 70s. Sadly, tragedy struck when Pete Duell passed away during the show's run. And while his role was recast with Roger Davis, the dynamic of the series struggled to recover. Changing audience tastes and the waning popularity of westerns eventually led to its cancellation. Number 13 is Search. Search was a sleek, futuristic adventure series that tapped into the rising fascination with technology in the early 70s. The show followed a group of high-tech operatives working for the World Securities Corporation, a private investigation firm that used cutting-edge gadgets and surveillance to solve cases. Each episode featured a different lead agent, explorers like Hugh O'Brien's Hugh Lockwood, Doug McClure's C.R. Grover, and Tony Franciosa's Tony Barrett, all adding variety to its action-packed stories. But what set Search apart was its strikingly modern approach to crime solving. Operatives were equipped with audio-visual implants and worked in constant communication with their high-tech command center, staffed by the calm and commanding Burgess Meredith as the boss, Cameron. The show's blend of spy thriller intrigue and James Bond-style gadgetry delivered a fantastical glimpse into a world where technology, it seemed limitless, perfect for an era infatuated with the promise of the space age. Despite its innovative concept, Search struggled to maintain a consistent tone and identity with its rotating leads. Coupled with high production costs and fierce competition, it wasn't able to find its footing, leading to its cancellation after just one season. Number 14 is Ellery Queen. Ellery Queen brought an intellectual flair to the detective genre, inviting audiences to test their wits alongside the lead character. Centered on Ellery Queen, an amateur sleuth and mystery writer played by Jim Hutton, the show cleverly combined classic whodunit storytelling with a unique interactive twist. Each episode presented a baffling case, with Ellery breaking the fourth wall near the end to challenge viewers to solve the mystery before the final reveal. The series, set in post-World War II New York, charmed audiences with its rich period details, sharp writing, and Hutton's understated yet likable performance. David Wayne as Ellery's father, Inspector Richard Queen, added a delightful dynamic, grounding the show with familiar warmth and humor. Their interplay gave a relatable touch to the puzzle-heavy narratives, making the stories both engaging and accessible. Now, while Ellery Queen delighted fans of the mystery genre, its thoughtful pacing and cerebral approach struggled to hold the attention of broader audiences accustomed to action-packed thrillers. It lasted only one season, not quite fitting the mold of 1970s TV trends. Number 15 was Space Academy. In the golden age of Saturday morning television, Space Academy stood out as an ambitious sci-fi adventure aimed at younger audiences. Set in the distant future year of 3732, the series followed a group of gifted cadets training at a high-space tech station under the guidance of Commander Isaac Gampu, played by veteran actor Jonathan Harris of Lost in Space fame. The cadets, played by a vibrant ensemble including Rick Carrots, Chris Gentry, and Pamela Ferdin's Laura Gentry, not only learned the ways of space exploration, but also tackled moral dilemmas and deep questions about teamwork, ethics, and curiosity. But what made Space Academy unique was its earnest attempt to mix educational themes with the thrills of outer space. The show introduced cutting-edge, for the time, special effects, clever set designs, and even a lovable robot sidekick named Peepo to capture the imaginations of its audience. In themes of cooperation, problem-solving, and the potential of humanity were perfect for an era captivated by the discoveries of NASA and the wider influence of Star Wars. Though it lived for just one season, Space Academy left a mark as a stepping stone for children's sci-fi, paving the way for similar shows to follow. Unfortunately, the limited production run, paired with its niche appeal, meant that eventually it faded into obscurity. Number 16 is That's My Mama. That's My Mama brought warmth and humor to television screens, offering a glimpse into the life of an African-American barber and his lively community in Washington, D.C. The show centered on Clifton Curtis, played by Clifton Davis, a charming, laid-back black man who ran the family barbershop, along with his wise and loving mother, Eloise, played by Teresa Merritt. Now, Eloise was always on hand with sage advice or a good-natured nudge, frequently urging Clifton to settle down and start a family, much to his playful resistance. The barbershop served as more than just a business. It was a hub for quirky customers and neighborhood regulars, like the hilarious duo Earl and Junior, who provided comedic relief and unforgettable banter. At a time when television was slowly beginning to reflect more diverse stories, That's My Mama stood out for its heartfelt approach to family, community, and culture. Its upbeat tone, relatable characters, and catchy theme song made it a feel-good favorite during its run. Though it captured plenty of laughs and love, That's My Mama struggled with ratings as it competed in a heavily packed television landscape. After 2 seasons, it was canceled, overshadowed by more groundbreaking shows of the time. Number 17 is The Krofft Super Show. If you were a kid in the late 70s, The Krofft Super Show was likely a Saturday morning staple, delivering a colorful mix of live action, adventure, and quirky storytelling. Produced by Sid and Marty Krofft, masters of whimsical television, the series was a variety platform that would feature rotating segments filled with wacky characters, fantastical settings, and plenty of action to keep young viewers glued to their screens. The show introduced children to a lineup of unforgettable miniseries like Electro Woman and Dyna Girl, a pair of spandex-clad superheroes facing campy villains with a techie flair, and Dr. Shrinker, which followed 3 teens escaping the clutches of a mad scientist after being shrunken down to doll size. Then there was the absurdly popular Wonder Bug, a magical talking dune buggy that whisked its young owners off on a wild slapstick adventure. With its larger-than-life characters and cartoonish plot lines, the Krofft Super Show was a kaleidoscope of imagination. Its appeal lay in its ability to tap into the unbridled creativity of childhood, offering a variety of genres and high-energy fun all in one supersized package. However, as tastes did shift towards slicker animation and more cohesive plots in later years, the show's blend of campy humor and low-budget effects began to feel dated. It eventually disappeared from the airwaves, but for those who grew up with its infectious energy, The Krofft Super Show is more than a faded memory. It's a reminder of a time when TV wasn't afraid to be bold, bizarre, and just plain fun. Number 18 is The Fantastic Journey. The Fantastic Journey was a short-lived sci-fi gem that took viewers on a thrilling ride through uncharted realms of time and space. The series followed a group of intrepid travelers who, after being stranded in the Bermuda Triangle, found themselves venturing through a strange and shifting world called Evoland. Now, this mysterious realm was filled with distinct zones, each with its own era, culture, and challenges, creating a rich backdrop for the group's adventures. Among the main characters were Dr. Fred Walters, a level-headed scientist, Scott Jordan, a curious teenager, and the enigmatic Varian, who was played by Jared Martin, who possessed mystic powers and served as the group's spiritual guide. Later joined by Liana, a telepathic alien with a strong moral compass, the group worked together to solve puzzles, face dangers, and search for a way back home. But what set The Fantastic Journey apart was its imaginative premise and the way it blended elements of sci-fi, fantasy, and philosophical exploration. For a society captivated by the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle and the cultural shift toward mind-expanding storytelling in the late 70s, the show offered a perfect escape into the unknown. Its themes of unity and cooperation all resonated with audiences that were looking for hopeful tales in uncertain times. However, despite its promise, the series never quite found its footing. A mix of uneven storytelling, modest production values, and stiff competition from more established shows led to its cancellation just after 10 episodes. Number 19 is Paper Moon. Based on the beloved 1973 film of the same name, Paper Moon brought its Depression-era charm to the small screen, blending heartwarming adventures with plenty of humor. The series followed Moses, Mose Prey, played by Christopher Connolly, a fast-talking con man with a knack for grifting, and Addie Loggins, played by Jodie Foster, his clever and fiercely independent young sidekick. Together, they roamed the Midwest, pulling off cons and swindles, all while forming an unlikely but endearing father-daughter bond. What made Paper Moon special was its unique setting and tender exploration of the bond between the two lead characters. Addie, wise beyond her years, often outsmarted Mose, creating a dynamic that was as funny as it was heartwarming. The show became a nostalgia-filled snapshot of 1930s Americana, with its period costumes, vintage cars, and small-town backdrops providing a visual treat. During its brief run, the series charmed audiences who fell in love with the original Oscar-winning film and sought more of Mose and Addie's antics. However, while Jodie Foster's performance was praised, it proved difficult to replicate the star power and chemistry that made the film such a hit. Struggling to stand out in a highly competitive TV landscape, Paper Moon came and went quite quickly, leaving only a faint imprint on television history. And number 20, When Things Were Rotten. Now, Mel Brooks, the king of irreverent comedy, brought his signature style to the medieval days of Sherwood Forest with When Things Were Rotten, a farcical twist on the Robin Hood legend. The show reimagined the outlaw and his merry men as hilariously inept underdogs working to outwit the bumbling, oppressive sheriff of Nottingham and his corrupt cohorts. Dick Gautier starred as Robin Hood, a charming but not so bright hero, while Misty Rowe played Maid Marian, who was often more capable than the men around her. The ensemble cast delivered zany humor with sharp wit and physical comedy that poked fun at historical tropes. But what set this sitcom apart was its wild anything-goes approach, blending slapstick antics with rapid-fire one-liners and breaking the fourth wall long before it became mainstream. Coming from the comedic genius behind Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, the humor was just loaded with puns, sight gags, and ridiculous twists that kept audiences laughing, even if sometimes it ventured into outright silliness. Although it delighted fans that liked its absurdist comedy, When Things Were Rotten struggled to capture a broader audience and was axed after just 13 episodes. Perhaps the humor was too niche for the time, or maybe it was overshadowed by more traditional programming. Some feel the show was ahead of its time, a precursor to more modern, self-aware comedies. And there you have it, a trip down memory lane with 20 TV shows from the 70s that have quietly faded into history. Did we spark any memories for you? Which of these shows were your favorite, or are there others that you think deserve a shout-out? We'd love to hear your stories, so drop them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this nostalgic ride, give us a like, hit the subscribe button, and ring that bell to join us on more journeys through TV's golden eras. Until next time, keep those memories alive.